So the first story we have here from Timcast.com, Lizzo twerks while playing James Madison's flute at DC concert. And that's it. One of the earliest presidents had a crystal flute from 1813, and the Library of Congress brought that on stage to this woman so that she could toot her flute and twerk. And something about this, just it's a circus, it's a spectacle. It is, I don't know what the right word is for it, but it seems unserious. Like we've become a very unserious people as a
waste of taxpayer dollars.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But what I mean is, we used to be like, we're going to the moon, people, not because we want to, but because we have to or whatever. I don't know what the quote was. But it was like, you look back on history and we see these very serious things. Everything was a large matter of consequence. You've got wars, you've got civil rights, you've got all of this huge historical stuff happening. And I look back on that and I'm like, either the country is completely fallen apart because we have no serious culture, we're permanently children, good times make weak men, or it never existed in the first place and we just romanticize the past.
Mm. So you're telling me James Madison wasn't twerking and playing his flute at the same time?
That's what he would do. Yeah, he would go up on stage and he would, twerk. That was very big in the late 1700s.
Yeah, I thought what she did was very bold and brave. Very bold. And the cloth stuck up her tuchus was definitely an added artistic expression that I think we have to fully support because it's again something that is nice now. So I fully support it.
Here's Lizzo tweeting, "Nobody has ever heard this famous crystal flute before. Now you have. I'm the first and only person to ever play this presidential 200-year-old crystal flute. Thank you, Library of Congress." I can appreciate this. She's very happy to be, playing this. But there's something about it that to me, it's just kind of like, I don't think disrespectful is the right word, but is desecration?
Yeah.
Desecration of
this
historical
is a really important
artifacts.
piece of history. It's a really neat piece of history. It's beautiful. And she just, what?
No, she upped the value. Now, Lizzo played James Madison's flute. Like
her buttocks flailing up and down, making the clap noise, adds value to this historical thing. And now when we think of James Madison's flute, we think of the wonderful booty of Miss Lizzo, which I think only makes it that much better.
This reminds me of like Idiocracy and Wall-E.
Yeah.
Like the look of shock and excitement on her face. I think
that comment was perfect right there.
I just kind of feel like we're on the verge of World War III, and Vladimir Putin's sitting back in his chair and he's watching this and he's like, "Yeah, it's all over." You know what I mean?
You don't understand the major accomplishment that this was.
Yes, thank you. And just finally, someone sees it like I do.
Yeah.
This is Americana personified right in our reality. I mean, what else do you need to see to understand that this is America at its best right now?
I think.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think the Chinese engineers of TikTok are the ones who are sitting back laughing because if you're asking yourself, what does our culture pay attention to? Well, that's what TikTok culture will get you right there.
Oh man, and these TikTok videos, they pop up on Instagram too, and I look at them and I'm like, okay, people are being programmed with this stuff. Like, have you seen these videos? There's like a lot of memes and they play songs and they all do the exact same thing, and it's like, is degenerate the right word?
Depraved.
Well, depraved.
Yeah.
It's working on people's
Lascivious.
basic impulses. And when you look at Chinese TikTok and their algorithm and you compare it to the American TikTok and what is shown to our children here, that it's captivating so much of their attention span that YouTube is trying to copy every thing that TikTok is right now. You see a huge difference with what is represented to the children of China that are limited on the platform only to, I believe, an hour or 2 hours per day. They're shown educational content. They're shown content that informs them about things about their culture, about their society, about things that they could be doing, art, math, science, all of that is prioritized. Here, twerking, sexuality, degeneracy idiocy, hurting people, making fun of
Obesity.
people, and normalizing obesity, normalizing castration, normalizing some of the most craziest ideas, which some people would hint at is a form of fifth generational warfare, with people being brainwashed and doing things that essentially hurt them, their families, their communities, and eventually the country. And I think this needs to be understood when it comes to seeing the algorithm and its larger impacts on society.
Do you guys ever take the moral foundations test? You know that one? It's based on Jonathan Haidt's research. There's 6 moral foundations. You guys know, you don't know that one?
I've taken it.
Liberals have only 2. Conservatives have all 6, and libertarians only have 1.
Of course.
Libertarians, it's liberty. Everything else is it's just liberty. So like,
Well, Lizzo's free to do this.
they ask questions to find out where your moral foundations are. I usually get it says like left liberal, but I have a decent balance across the board. But I have really high liberty, and then I have really high like fairness. Liberals only have care and fairness as their moral foundations. They have no loyalty, like sanctity, purity, or whatever the other ones are. And then they have very low liberty on average. And then libertarians, they just don't care about anything but liberty. So the questions they ask you, it'll be like, there's a scale where it's like, how okay are you with this scenario? And one of them is, Janet is cleaning her attic when she comes across an old war memorial flag from her grandfather's time in his service, and she picks it up and uses it as a washcloth to scrub the floors. Are you okay with this? Liberals tend to say, yeah, who cares? Libertarians tend to say, yeah, who cares? Conservatives tend to say, this is not okay. So in that regard, I actually say, yeah, absolutely not okay. I think for me, it's like, it's important to recognize the past so that we can learn from it, understand it, and improve moving forward. But when I see something like this, I don't feel like rage or disgust. I kind of feel like, yeah, we're going downhill. Because there's a certain amount of respect you would have for objects and artifacts and things that represent the successes and the failures of humanity. And for this spectacle of this big, what's the right word?
Bodacious?
Bodacious.
Yeah.
Sure, Luke. But look. I'm not trying to be mean to Lizzo because, I got that libertarian spike. But what I see here is American history being mocked essentially by a morbidly obese woman on stage as a spectacle, as a gag, as a joke, totally disrespecting what it is, what it represents, what it's supposed to be. And as Luke was saying, it's the normalization, all of these really negative traits that we're supposed to be okay with. I look at this and I feel like it's idiocracy. I feel like it's WALL-E. In WALL-E, everybody's morbidly obese. They have no bone density anymore. That's not the kind of place we want to go. We don't want to go into some future where everyone's like He-Man, ripped, and like it's Sparta or anything like that. But at the very least, we can be like, hey, we're going to respect the relics of our past so we can understand it. This to me is just like taking a dump on the American flag,
Do you think that people would have said the same thing in the late 1960s? Like, conservatives at the time would have said, America's going down the toilet. This is it. It's over. Like, because America does to a certain extent oscillate between conservative and
no, for sure.
culture, right?
And I've thought about that. So I decided, you know what? This could just be our generation's conflict. So I asked a bunch of older people who were around back then. And you know what they said? Certainly not.
We're screwed.
Yeah. They said it's never been this bad.
So maybe we're just oscillating downwards.
Yeah.
I think we are. I went to an antique shop. It's amazing. I got a photo. I got books. It's the photographic history of the Civil War. It's this collection. It's from 1913, I think. It's very expensive. And it's amazing. You open it up and there's pictures from like Civil War battlefields and stuff. And I asked this guy who's in his 60s, have you ever seen it this bad? And he says, no, absolutely not. Now, granted, in the 60s, he was, that's around the time he was born. He was a small child. But I've asked a bunch of older people too, because people we've had on the show, we've had a lot of people on the show who are like in their 70s and older, and they all say the same thing. It has never been this bad. So I have to wonder,
Well, here's maybe just one question here. Do you also think that the power of information and technology and the way in which ideas can basically go between groups of people, go between countries in a way that they never could before, like at a certain point, the top is going to blow off and people will awaken to the fact that they've been, controlled in these paradigms like what we're looking at right there, and everybody's celebrating, stuff like that.
You know what I wonder is there seems to be independent thinkers and dependent thinkers. And I wonder what the catalyst for that is. Why is it that some people want to live in the matrix and some people don't? is this something inherent to an individual down to their core, their soul, or is it a learned behavior, something that can be snapped out of? I certainly think humans are amorphous to the point where anyone can be red-pilled, anyone can be woke. It doesn't matter where you're from. But I wonder if there's a tendency due to something, inherent. I'm not saying I know for sure. I'm wondering, I guess.
I think that battle has happened since America was incepted. It's between the Puritans who settled, in the Mass Bay colonies, wrote the first laws in the United States. Like one of the first laws written in the United States was you can't beat your wife with a stick any thicker than your thumb.
I don't think that's true.
Yes, it is. Well, let's look it up.
I think that's apocryphal.
No, it's literally that there were like 12 laws that were written in the Mass Bay colonies, and that's one of them. Let's check it out. Anyways, then there were the hillbillies who also came and they conquered the frontier. And they're like, I'm not going to listen to your laws. I'm not going to listen to that. I think to a certain extent, America is unique in that we have those two cultures kind of battling it out.
Let's see. English jurist Sir William Blackstone wrote in the Commentaries of the Laws of England, an old law that wants moderate beatings by husbands, but he did not mention thumbs. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's apocryphal. What did you say that was from?
I'm going to do my own independent research. Mass Bay.
Yeah, it's I think it's folk etymology.
I'm going to crack a beer if I'm wrong this early in the podcast.
But they're talking about so when you search for this, you get rule of thumb, and they say that the rule of thumb is not a real thing.
I'm talking about beating your wife with a stick thicker than your thumb.
But that's where where that comes from. So, that's what people are saying. It's based on, that the rule of thumb is about beating your wife when it's actually.
So there was a court ruling in 1824 that asserted this. Wait. A ruling in Mississippi stated the man was entitled to enforce domestic discipline by striking his wife with a whip or stick no wider than the judge's thumb. In a later case in 1868, the defendant was found to have struck his wife with a switch about the size of his fingers. The judge found the man not guilty due to the switch being smaller than a thumb. So I don't know, man. You don't beat your wife. It's not cool.
No.
Yeah. Well, clearly.
Yeah, that was aside from the point of the story. But.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think I think this is my take on the whole Lizzo situation. I don't think it's that deep. I don't. First of all, did anybody in this room know the existence of that flute before today?
No.
Nope.
No, and it's very cool.
Okay. James Madison apparently never played it. So it was probably just given to him. Like somebody made it.
That makes it worse.
We don't know the historical significance of this flute other than James Madison probably got it during his presidency. Lizzo absolutely did not know about that flute. She had a concert there. Somebody in the National Archives is probably like, I really like Lizzo.
They tweeted at her.
We have this stupid flute that nobody's played, and it's like
Let me ask you something.
It's like Pixar. It's like Pixar. Okay, John Lasseter used to have like a in his office. He used to have all the Pixar toys, and then little kids would want to touch him, and he's like, no, don't touch him, and he's like, oh, wait a minute. They're toys. Kids should be allowed to play them. And the National Archives is probably the same thing. Like that flute needs to be played.
Right. So that makes it worse, right? if you had an original sealed Han Solo action figure, mint condition, and then someone was like, let's tear it open and play with it, you destroy the value of it. The fact that it's preserved is what makes it valuable.
But if you're George Lucas, who cares? Like you're just like, sure, kid, go play with it.
Right. This is the property of the American public that was never played before. Was a historical artifact, was handed off to some entertainer to play on stage, and that's why I said desecration. It's no longer this pristine crystal flute that was ornamental. It is now a gag prop for a stage show.
Well, it's not like she pooped on an American flag. I mean, she just like played a flute for 5 seconds. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily call it desecration. I would say the whole situation is like ludicrous.
I'm not trying to say that it's like akin to like pissing on a grave or anything, but like it has fundamentally altered what that object was. And I just think what we see consistently is this idea that these people, typically on the left, care absolutely nothing for this country. They call it historically racist. They crap all over it. And it's all hypocrisy. They're more than happy to say defund the police, but then call the police on people they don't like. They're more than happy to all laugh and cheer and scream 1619 Project, but then be like, woo, we get to play with this historical artifact. It's just, what I see is, you can certainly look to the past in your country and say, hey, there were bad things and we want to do away with those. But I think you absolutely have to respect, the beginnings of where you come from and the history of your country. I think, look, what it comes down to is the reverence for this country is just flushed down the toilet. And this may just be a grain of sand in the heap, but this is like a big show where they pulled from the archives, from the Library of Congress, and brought it on stage to make some spectacle out of. I'm not saying it's the apocalypse.
But it's not very significant either, the actual flute. Like, we don't know what it's about. Like, who gave it to him? Like, why was it given to him? Why was it made?
I don't think that's relevant.
It's
like I've got a coin. I've got a coin from Athens. That I got at a shop. I don't know who spent it. I don't know why it was for. Minted. No idea. All I know is that it exists. It's evidence of the civilization that existed. It's a reminder of these things. I was also I got this for Seamus. It was a coin used by Saint Casper.
Oh, yeah.
That they allege it was one of the same coins that were minted around the same time that was given to Saint Casper. Was one of the wise men. It may have been used by him. We don't know for sure, but this was these were the ones minted in this area where they believe he came from. And that's a representation of something valuable. Using it as currency is meaningless, but to take these items and treat them like just spectacles and toys or gag shows, I think is look, no one desecration, I think, is like a signal of the apocalypse. That's the gag I put in the title of this video. I just think that this is just another sign of the decay of the core and the soul of this country. Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.